Middlebridge Mysteries by Ken Cooperus, starring Anna Cathcart and Eric McCormack. I loved the Mistletoe Murders series. Season 4 just dropped at time of recording, so I had high hopes for this, but I'm afraid it's simply not very good. It reminded me of Joey, the spin-off show from Friends that flopped, in that it took one character from an existing successful series and tried, but failed, to transplant that person into a new scenario. There's simply too much going on here for it to be successful, and there are far too many characters. The first episode just constantly throws new characters at you who you never really get to know apart from Violet, and in the second episode, when she solves the murder, you still don't know who any of these people are. The stories are very formulaic. Violet uncovers something. Trying to solve this gets in the way of her coursework. Professor Bellows warns her she's not working hard enough. Violet forgets she has to do something. Something to do with romance. Violet doesn't do something again. Violet solves a murder. Professor Bellows begrudgingly gives her credit. The end. Every story follows that formula. There are occasional variations, but they only include extra scenes where Violet forgets something or doesn't pay attention in class, and Professor Bellows picks up on that, asks her a question, and then she goes back to thinking about the case. It's just tedious and unrealistic. Another problem is the internal monologue. It just makes her come across as stupid. She got into this supposedly prestigious university because she's seemingly such a great potential detective, but this series shows us none of that. The series would have benefited from having a core group of characters who actually help Violet, for example Stuart and Hunter, rather than them being secondary characters or even an antagonist. The Professor Bellows character doesn't work for me. What he says during lectures doesn't ring true, especially given that they're straight out of high school, and I just don't like Eric McCormack's delivery. It reminded me too much of the episodes of Will and Grace where Will was patronizing. Other people seem miscast. For example, the roommate sounds at least 10 years older. The writing, on the whole, is not very good. Ken Cooperus wrote the first 2 episodes. Episode 3 was written by someone else, while episode 4, as in the second half of that story, was written by someone else entirely. The last 2 episodes were written by the same person, but not by any of the previous authors, and you can tell that there were lots of different writers. It just didn't feel consistent. The second story is particularly poor, and the jeopardy could easily have been avoided simply by Violet using her phone. There's absolutely no reason why she wouldn't have had her phone with her, so she must have had it. Therefore, why didn't she use it? Another reason the story fell flat for me was the title. Dude, Where's My Corpse? Or something like that. Whoever thought basing the title on a bad film from 25 years ago was a good idea? Who are they trying to appeal to? The story also didn't feel true because Violet does literally not a scrap of work for the group project she has to do with Stuart. Literally not a thing. And he's fine with that. The end of the final episode sets up an interesting premise for a possible second season, but they'd have to make some major changes for me to consider listening to it. This had the potential to be a good series, but it just failed for me. Would I listen to another series written by Ken Cooperus? Yes, I do love the Mistletoe Murders, although season 4 was subpar, I felt. All in all, I'd give the show a 2 out of 5 and the cast a 4 out of 5. How about you? Have you listened to this? How do you think it compares to the original show Mistletoe Murders? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as I release a new review every week. Thanks for watching.